Well, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the farm. So I have been looking forward to making this video for quite a while now. Today is the annual monitoring visit from the Land Conservancy. So I don't think that I've ever talked about this in a video before, but Chanyata Farm belongs to the Cardinal Land Conservancy, which is a multi-county land conservancy here in Southwest Ohio that is committed to preserving natural habitats, waterways, wetlands, forests here in Southwest Ohio. So this morning, a few guys from the Land Conservancy will be walking around my property, and they'll be doing their annual monitoring visit. Like I said, they'll be checking to make sure that I am still adhering to the rules of the Land Conservancy. So you may be wondering, what is a Land Conservancy? I'll take my best shot at explaining it real quick, but once the guys get here, they are the experts on this. I will let them explain it much better than me. But basically the gist of it is Chanyata Farm, this piece of property, will have to stay basically as is in perpetuity. I can never go and clear cut forests. If I sell the property, it can't be turned into a subdivision. You wouldn't be able to tell it by my surroundings, because actually my neighbor has a nice piece of property right next to me, and I'm next to a nature preserve that is owned by the county. But not half a mile up the street from here, there is a cookie cutter subdivision that's probably 300 or 400 houses, all on little half-acre lots. And I am pretty sure that at some point a family owned a piece of property like mine, or maybe a couple of families, and they sold them off to a developer. And now, like I said, it's just like a cookie cutter little subdivision. So one of the other people that's going to be here today that I'm super excited about is Barry Adamson, the man that I bought Chanyata Farm from. This was his family's homestead for, I believe, 60 plus years. And he is the one that placed the conservancy on the property, because we'll talk about this, but I imagine that his reasoning, we'll ask him about it, is that he did not want to see this beautiful piece of land, the pastures, the rolling hills, the old growth forest that is on this small piece of property. He didn't want to see it turn into a neighborhood like it did right up the street from him. So in a few minutes, everybody will be getting here, and we will talk with Andy and Roland and Mark and Barry all about the Cardinal Land Conservancy, what they're looking for today, and sort of what the goals of the Conservancy are, and why conservation is so important, and why you might want to consider having your piece of property rolled into a land conservancy or placed under a land conservancy.
So I'm Andy Dickerson. I'm the Executive Director of Cardinal Land Conservancy. We are a nonprofit based in Southwest Ohio, office in Milford. We work in 7 counties in Southwest Ohio. So we protect agricultural lands, green space and open space, and we do it through outright ownership and through conservation easements. Now, a lot of people don't know what an easement is, but an easement is a layer of protection. So picture like a Duke utility easement. So what we have, either whether it's donated or purchased through certain grant programs, we can purchase an interest in property. So a landowner will still own the property, but what we purchase is the right for more subdivision or the development of the property. And they're all negotiated individually, but for the most part, we like to keep properties whole. And when we do it in an agricultural setting, we do it to keep family farms in the family, so they can never be split up, developed, and always available for farming. Now, the types of properties that we look for when we own a property outright, it's usually a green space property. So we seek to protect those last great places in Southwest Ohio. And you'll see we're up to almost 500 acres of lands that we own that we want to showcase and have people see. In terms of easements, we're just over 7,000 acres in easements that we have. And these properties range from small, 20-acre easements up to 1,000 acres. And we are responsible for protecting these in perpetuity. Now, the agreement that we have in the form of the easement, it's officially recorded in courthouses, attached to the deed, and it stays with the property forever. And us being an accredited land trust, we have the governance and finances in place that help us monitor and enforce the restrictions of the easement forever. So we always say we're in the forever business. So, look us up, check us out, and see what we do.
So what resources and value does belonging to the Conservancy bring to a landowner?
So The resources Cardinal brings are vast, I would say. We have a huge volunteer base, and the knowledge that the institutional knowledge that we maintain, from restoration of natural areas and what should be grown there, what will grow someplace, to the agricultural areas of how to do best management practices for conservation. So we ensure that our landowners have conservation plans and that they follow them from the NRCS or Soil and Water Conservation District. They work in concert. But with us, we have a strong background in planting for pollinators, water quality, and we're just now getting into carbon credits. So we're able to help landowners that have the right size properties get paid basically from private companies for carbon offsets. And I think that's the wave of the future, and if we can band together and get more people enrolled, we can do a lot, not just for water quality and climate change, but for the profitability of the individual farmer.
For people that aren't familiar with this space, what was that acronym that you used, the NRCS?
NRCS is a Natural Resource Conservation Service, and Soil and Water Conservation District is SWCD, so we always use those interchangeably.
Perfect. And what's your background in? How'd you get involved with the Cardinal?
I don't know. I've been all over. So I have a degree in zoology and another master's degree in environmental science. I worked for the Nature Conservancy for a number of years doing restoration, was director of science and stewardship, so to me it was about learning and about doing. And from there, private sector, stream restoration, Cardinal Land Conservancy was looking for someone to lead it, and I've always been from here, so put my name in the hat and they picked it out.
Hi, my name's Mark Besterman. I'm the land steward for Cardinal Land Conservancy. I've been doing this for the last couple of years. I actually retired from Procter & Gamble after a 30 plus year career at P&G, and I'm doing this in my retirement years to help with the work that Cardinal's doing. So I have two main jobs as the Cardinal Land Steward. One is to help with the properties that Cardinal owns outright. So that's things like honeysuckle control, invasive control, and tree planting projects, including a 300 tree planting project we did at our Todd's Fork Preserve out in Clinton County. And then the other thing that I do is help monitor the conservation easements that Cardinal holds. This year we have about 45 or so conservation easements that need to be visited, and we do that once a year to help meet the terms of the easement requirements. And so we walk around the properties, we go to the same points each year to see what things have changed or not changed. And then we consult with the landowners to see if they have any questions about the property and what we can do to help conserve it.
And if I remember right, you also have something that you do with Great Parks also?
Yeah, I'm a volunteer with Great Parks of Hamilton, or of Cincinnati, of Hamilton County. And I'm a stream monitor for that, where we go to a stream here at Richardson Forest Preserve and also at Winton Woods to assess stream quality, and also help with our winter hike series.
Hi, I'm Roland Johnson, and I'm a board member of Cardinal Land Conservancy. We started in the land conservation business back in 1999 as the Land Conservancy of Hamilton County. And we formed a group that saw great potential in land conservation throughout the county. We had a small group that got together and we formed ourselves, and we were quite successful in conserving properties throughout the county. However, as we aged and as things went on, we thought we needed to either fold up our shop because of people waning away, or that we merge with other people. And the opportunity came forward, and we merged with two other organizations. The organization, now here I'm fumbling, and I have to edit this out.
Oh, you're fine. Go ahead.
Two other organizations to form Cardinal Land Conservancy. So now we occupy or service the area of 7 southwest counties in Ohio. Now, back in about 2010, we were introduced to Barry Adamson. And Barry had this piece of property here in northern Hamilton County and was interested in conserving it. And well, it took quite a while. He had to settle affairs, and things don't go fast in this business. And in the good time, we came together and formed what's called a conservation easement. And this placed this property in the scope and monitoring and stewardship of the Cardinal, or at that time the Land Conservancy of Hamilton County. Since then we became Cardinal, but everything persisted, and our responsibility for this property to maintain its conservation values, to see that they are adhered to, still remains. And here we are in 2020, and still doing it, loud and strong. Our responsibility is theoretically forever, in perpetuity. Not that I'm going to be here perpetually, but that our organization will, or its successors, will be perpetually responsible for the stewardship of this land and to see that it adheres to the stipulations of both Barry Adamson and also of Cardinal Land Conservancy. So we have now a wonderful relationship with the Clearys, and it persists. It will persist no matter who owns the place or who will guard it in the future.
Well, I'm Barry Adamson. This is the property where I grew up. My parents purchased this farm in 1941, and my brother, my sister, and I, and Mom and Dad, we lived here, and we farmed this land. And my father had another job working for Cincinnati Public Schools, but on the weekends, in the mornings, in the evenings, in the summers, we were always busy. When you have cattle and sheep and chickens, there's never a time that you're really completely off. But as I thought about this land after my parents passed away, we always knew that we never wanted to see this land develop the way we had seen so many other things change nearby. Subdivisions going in, and asphalt and concrete everywhere. This land just had too much to offer. It was too pretty, if you will, too nice to see that change. And so in 2011 and then finally in 2012, working with what was then the Land Conservancy of Hamilton County, which is now Cardinal, I worked with Roland Johnson and his team to develop a conservation easement that I could donate to them to make sure that this property would always be whole and never be developed and continue to be farmed and used in the way that we had for so many years.
So as you guys can see, there is a lot of knowledge here today between these guys. So stay tuned, because there is going to be tons of great info in this video. All right, Andy, so how does the farm compare to some of the other properties that are in the Cardinal Land Conservancy?
So I like to look at farms, I don't know, it's funny. There's a way to compare science and culture and art, and every farm with its owner as the artist decides what this big rock of granite is going to look like. So this farm in particular has been evolving over the years. It's always been great and a stalwart piece in Hamilton County, but these guys are really turning it into something that is going to be even better. So we are looking at a piece that's going to have invasive species removal, some agro-tourism in terms of maple syrup, maybe camping, letting people understand what it's like to own a farm in a kind of urban setting. So I think this farm is right near the top for what we own.
So for a property of this size, is it somewhat unique for the amount of different habitats that are here, in terms of, like, there's a wetland area, there's sort of an old growth forest area. So for a property of around 50 acres, is this Is this sort of normal or is this pretty unique?
No, I think this is unique. I mean, in Hamilton County, it's hard to find parcels this large anymore, and especially with those various habitat types. So the ability to have it managed for the things we care about, water quality, wildlife diversity, agriculture, all that hits home right here on this piece. So it is unique in that aspect.
So as we're going around here, we're looking for specific waypoints where Mark is going to take pictures and compare them to the pictures that he took last year to make sure that nothing has changed that wasn't supposed to change. Here we have the pictures that he took from last year. So you can see this tree here is those trees there. So what specifically are you looking for, Mark?
We just like to go year to year to the same waypoints, just to make sure that we are consistently looking for change in spots. So by being able to go to the same spot and identify the same spot, it really helps us to be more effective in our monitoring activities.
Maybe you could show us that topographical map real quick of the different waypoints that we're going around to. So each one of these little notifications, little letters and numbers, is a different waypoint that we're going to go to. So we're going to check all of those today.
Right, and we're up here right now at number 7.
All right, guys, so this is one of the coolest trees on the property. This big bur oak, and I don't know if this video is really even doing it justice for how big this thing is.
Next to the property.
Next to the property. Next to the property. Thank you, Barry. This thing is an absolute monster.
Okay, we're standing next to this beautiful bur oak, but at this particular point that's near the base of the bur oak is a stone. And if Stephen lets the light get on it, I want you to notice in particular a line going this way and 2 lines going this way. This is a surveyor's stone, probably put in the 1800s, I'm going to guess, maybe even further back. But this is where 3 properties come together. So we've got Chanyata Farm to the south, we have another property to the west, and another property to the east, and this is the point where the 3 come together, and it's marked with this stone. I found this by accident in the summer of 1976. I was working on fencing back here, and lo and behold, came across this. My father didn't even know it was here.
Did you know what it was right when you found it?
I had a pretty good idea what it was, and I did a little research about how property lines have been marked, but I'm completely confident that that's what it is.
So I know one of the big focuses, Mark, of the things that I should be keeping an eye on are invasive species around the farm. So maybe you could point out, you said we have a couple of examples right here of a few different types of invasive species and what we can do for the removal and abatement of them.
So one of the things that's really important on invasives work is being first able to identify them, because there are quite a few native shrubs and bushes that you don't want to get rid of. So you only want to get rid of the invasives. Here's an example of olive. One way to identify it is the underside of the leaf is almost white compared to the top. So it's a really easy thing to identify. They tend to have multi-stem shrub kind of look. And then over here is some honeysuckle. This time of year, towards the end of October, honeysuckle will stay green for a while. That's one of the ways you can help identify it. It tends to have the red berry on it. And then very characteristic stem and trunk pattern on the honeysuckle. So,
good.
So the way you want to treat these kind of plants when they're over probably an inch, half an inch to an inch or bigger, you want to cut them down at the ground with loppers or a chainsaw, and then apply some herbicide to the stump, because if you don't apply herbicide, they'll just start immediately growing again. And it's really important to get that herbicide on very quickly within 15 minutes of when you cut it, so that the herbicide gets soaked into the root system, which will help kill it. And if you want to do foliar spray on the lower stuff, some of the smaller stuff here, the best time to do that is this time of year, because there's a 2 to 3 week period in the fall, end of October, early November, where the honeysuckle is still active and growing, but the native trees and bushes have gone dormant. So you can apply a foliar spray to those bushes. It will kill the invasives, but won't damage any of the surrounding native species.
So like he was talking about, you can see all this green that you see all back through here on this hillside and everything. Just about everything else has either lost its leaves or they're starting to go brown or changing color. So it's really easy to identify this time of year. Well guys, we just wrapped up the monitoring visit. We were able to go around and go to each of those individual waypoints. Mark was able to get his pictures that he'll be able to use next year when they come back to do this again next year for their monitoring visit, to compare the photos from this weekend to what everything looks like next weekend. And that's just to ensure that I am still falling underneath the rules of the agreed upon easement between myself and the Cardinal Conservancy. So you could hear as these guys went through their backgrounds, and then even as we were talking, as we were going around doing the monitoring and they were answering some of my questions, these guys have really extensive backgrounds in all of this stuff: soil, wildlife, waterway conservation, and things that they don't know. Building these relationships, they know the people that do know the answers. Or, you know, I'm only 1 or 2 people removed from being able to have some really, really beneficial resources to making sure that as I have become the steward of this property now, that I am able to take care of it, not only to my standards, but to the standards of the Conservancy. And sort of the most beautiful thing about all of that is, when Barry went to all the trouble to have the Conservancy placed on Chanyata Farm, to have it placed on this piece of property, that he was able to have the peace of mind that after he sold the farm and it was no longer his, that it was going to stay this beautiful piece of property. And to me, that's also awesome, because I know that if I sell the farm, or when I'm dead and gone, hopefully years and years from now, that this pristine, beautiful piece of property that is pastures, that is woods, that is wetlands, it really is kind of a really unique slice, like Annie kind of referenced earlier, for the size of the property. It's kind of a really unique slice of all these different sort of like habitats and, like, I don't know, maybe you'd call them like micro ecosystems. That's probably not quite the right word for it, but all of these different habitats that are here at the farm. So it really is a beautiful thing getting to know in the back of my head that this piece of history, this piece of natural history that is this property, is going to stay this way. And of course things are going to change, trees are going to fall, landscapes are going to change, those sort of things are going to happen. But to know that from now until through forever, this property is going to remain this beautiful slice, little piece of heaven here in Hamilton County. In Hamilton County, I mean, I am this close to the suburbs. I know it doesn't feel it as you watch my videos, as you saw the footage that you saw today of us back in the woods. This feels like we really are out in the country, like we're really out in the woods. But I mean, we are, but really we're not. I am 15 minutes away, if that, from a major mall. I am less than 10 minutes away from the closest major highway. This little slice of heaven is really super unique, and it is a beautiful thing knowing that it's going to be able to stay this way for forever. Well guys, I will put some links down in the description to the Facebook page and to the website for the Cardinal Land Conservancy if you'd like to learn some more about it. I'd like to give a big old thank you to Andy, to Roland, and to Mark for coming out today. I think that they really showed how knowledgeable they are and how much insight they have into this sort of thing. And then I also want to give a really big thank you to Barry for coming out today. You know, without Barry, none of this would have been possible. You know, Chanyata Farm could have been sold to a developer and he could have made all kinds of money, but him being the great guy that he is, seeing the true value in this property wasn't in the monetary value of it, that it was in preserving, like I said, I can't think of a better way to put it, but preserving the natural history of this property. So big shout out to Barry. You know, without him, of course the efforts of the Cardinal, but without him, none of this is possible for me. And you know, I am a little bit in the me business. This is sort of about, about them, but this is also a little bit about me. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video today. This was quite a bit different than any of the other stuff that I've done on the channel before. So I hope that you enjoyed it. If you have any questions about the Conservancy and how that works, make sure you leave it down in the comments for me. If I don't know the answer, I will be sure to find the answer for you. If you enjoyed the video, consider hitting that thumbs up for me. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And until next time, y'all, we will see you.